I am calling this meeting to order. This is the Parks and Environmental Sustainability Committee of the Whole meeting held on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2004, commencing at 4:30 p.m. Council members in attendance are Council President Kritzer, Council Vice President Forsyth, Council Member Fields, Council Member Stewart, Council Member Salahuddin, online, Council Member Anderson, and me, Council Member Nueva Camina, as presiding officer. There are 5 items on the agenda today, and the first item is the approval of the full-time FTE position for CM 24-001 for Parks and Recreation, and Director Hamilton is here.
Good afternoon, Lorene Hamilton, Parks and Recreation Director. The item that we're bringing forward today is looking to put this item on the consent agenda for February 6th. So we are requesting council approval of an additional 1.28 FTEs for the Parks and Recreation Department, which would increase our total FTE count to 75 FTEs. This additional staffing capacity will allow the Parks and Recreation Department to achieve 2 goals. The first is the expanded program capacity at the Redmond Senior and Community Center, which will open in May of 2024. Secondly, the change provides administrative centralization and efficient allocation of work within our park operations and facilities divisions. The 1.0 FTE request is a recreation program coordinator to support additional programming at the Redmond Senior and Community Center, specifically in the Kids Zone, toddler and family programs, and recreation events. The position is backed through revenue and from our Parks and Recreation fees and lives in the Recreation Activity Fund. The second 0.28 FTE will be added to an existing part-time position, which is currently at 0.72, so it will round it out to a full 1.0 to provide full-time administrative support to the parks operations and facility divisions. The FTE will be funded by ongoing supplemental dollars that are already budgeted in our department budget. Are there any questions on this item?
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Director Hamilton. And of course, this is really exciting as we get ready. I was just checking out the senior center today when I came in. It's got a new...
Looking great.
It's looking amazing. But I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about the recreation program coordinator. Did the need for this additional FTE, it's great it has funding, all of that. Did the need for this come up since the budget, or did we forget to put it in the budget? Can you just tell us that story a little bit?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So a little bit of both. As you recall, we started the budget process for this current budget almost 2 years ago now. And so we did our very best to kind of project out and estimate what our staffing structure was going to look like, what the programming within that facility was going to look like. And as we continued that planning, just found that we really hadn't allocated enough staffing to cover the Kids Zone in particular, which is a new amenity for us that we have not managed before, as well as ensuring that we had a program coordinator that was really looking at our family and kind of toddler type programming, which is a newer programming need that we have not had in our existing community centers. And so, yes, that we learned it as we continued to plan for the new community center and found that we would need it, and it will be offset by revenues.
Great, thank you.
Council President Kritzer.
Excited to hear about the toddler programming. Great. Curious to know, so is this position, are they going to be managing staff that will be providing the care in the Kids Zone? And are we going to be projecting to add more FTEs to actually do that staffing? What's the staffing going to look like for that actual programming?
That's a great question. So similar to a lot of our recreation programs, they're done in a few different ways. So some is done through hiring supplementals who do classes and like staffing zones or areas. So similar to in like our fitness zone, we have a coordinator that oversees the fitness, and then we have fitness attendants. So we'll likely have Kids Zone attendants who are helping take care of the kids. Those will not be FTEs, those would be supplementals. The other thing that our program coordinator does is they oversee contracts. And so we partner with a lot of different organizations and contractual partners who help provide programming within our spaces. And so this person also helps build those relationships and bring program opportunities into our centers and spaces for the community to enjoy. So there should not be additional FTE capacity asked beyond this.
Great. And will you be coming back to us with the budget change asks for those supplemental roles?
Those are all already built into the budget from when we did the budget last time around. So we did build in supplemental dollars for the operations of the new community center. We really did our best to project out as much as we could for what we would need for the community center. This was just one of those that we did not fully project that need out.
Great. Well, thanks so much for the work on this, and can't wait for it to open.
There's like cabinets in the building now. It's very exciting.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
Thank you. Is it safe to assume that the budget numbers that you have in this memo are for this year only? And how quickly are you looking to get these positions hired and getting these people onboarded?
So the 0.28 is are you only asking about the one?
Whatever you want to share. Yeah.
Great, I'll share both. The 0.28 is a current staff person, so it's simply increasing their hours from 0.7 to, from 32 hours a week to 40 hours a week. So that one is already filled, and upon approval, we will extend those hours. The timeline for the recreation program coordinator, we plan to post it as soon as it is approved by city council so that we can get someone into that position to help plan for the opening of the community center. So yeah, these numbers are only for this year, but then would enter into our baseline budget. And again, that 1.0 is offset by revenues, and the RAF has been very healthy since our recovery, and we anticipate that to continue into the new biennium.
Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing, the scope of both of these positions. My question is around the 0.28 FTE. Was an analysis or research into the position needs done so that, it wasn't shown that we might need more than 0.28 and hiring someone else alongside our current staff member? And is there a reason or hours allocated why, why we're only going to that full one position instead of more?
That's a great question. So that funding is cut. I'm going to rewind us a little bit, but try not to go too far. So facilities did not used to be part of Parks and Recreation, came into Parks and Recreation, had a 0.5 supplemental position that helped with some of the administrative needs within facilities. When facilities joined Parks and Recreation, we have tried really hard to streamline a lot of the processes and things like that. There are still a lot of efficiencies to realize. If we're doing it the same way between both of those divisions, both of them are out at the Maintenance and Operations Center, we realize a lot of efficiencies by doing that. And so the short answer is, yeah, we did a lot of deep dives into what are the roles of all of these different positions, who's doing what, and how do we make sure that they're really successful in that. I think you can always need more administrative staff, frankly. So, but at this point in time, we're really confident that utilizing the dollars from that 0.5 supplemental and boosting up our full-time staff will allow those people to be more efficient, more effective, and serve both sides of that particular side of the house, as we like to call it, really effectively and provide support to our facilities division as well. Yep.
Councilmember Fields.
Do you need our approval? Do you, so council appropriates FTEs and budget. Are you exceeding the current biennium appropriation authority for FTEs?
Yes.
And it's the 1.28. So
Yes.
Your department, and I guess I thought we appropriated by fund, but maybe we appropriate by department, is right now is 70, whatever that is, 70
73.72.
something. Okay. So
we need to be at 75.
Okay, so really, this is a budget amendment for 1.28
28 FTEs.
FTEs. The dollars are already there.
Dollars are already there.
Perfect, thanks.
Yep.
Director, confirming that we would like for this to go forward onto the consent agenda.
On February 6th, yes.
Great. Council, do we have any objection to this moving forward on the consent agenda? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item agenda number 2, which is the 2024-2025 Fire Department Promotional Exams Consultant Agreement. And we have Battalion Chief Caleb Freeman.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you. So our item that we're bringing forward here is we are looking for acceptance of a contract with Jack Clancy and Associates for promotional testing for a 2-year period. The background is that we had a contract with JCA for a number of years that we had extended, and then we were asked to do an RFP process to look to see if another vendor would be a better fit. So we completed the RFP process at the end of 2023 and only had one other submission. They ended up being more expensive than what Clancy had proposed, and also had some items that just didn't align with how we were wanting to run our promotional process. So determined that Clancy was the better fit, and so we are looking to move this to the consent agenda on the 6th so that we can continue moving forward. And the reason on the timeline is that we do need to conduct promotional testing here later in the spring, so we do need to secure the contract with the vendor with enough time for them to develop a test. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Fields.
Damn it. Do you expect much change in content or difficulty or complexity between what you currently have and what this will bring?
Thank you for the question. It should be very similar to what we've been utilizing here in the past several years. Every time we do conduct a test, however, we do meet with Clancy and SMEs within the department and the fire chief to make sure that we are all on the same page as to what performance measures we're wanting to evaluate and the structure and design of the test. And then Clancy is the one that has the technical expertise to actually build and design the test. So I anticipate it should be fairly similar to what we have been doing.
Great, and I think that answers what was going to be my second question, which was, will we need training for personnel in order to bring them up to a level to meet this? And it doesn't sound like you need additional training dollars.
No, we're not asking for any additional training dollars. Within our annual training plan that we have is built in the development to get people to where we want them to be to take promotional tests.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay, confirming that the request is for this to be added to the consent agenda for February 6th. Is anyone in objection to that? Fabulous.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
The third item on our agenda is DEI program monthly status update report, and we have Jan Harrison joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome to the two new council members. Give you a little background. I'm just getting ready to anniversary 1 year in this role next month. And I have to say that I'm still very, very excited to be here. And so with that, I am in the process of building this infrastructure. And I feel very fortunate in the sense that we are working with, we're going to be implementing the READY program, and that stands for Respect, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And we are working with the fabulous Anita Page, who is allowing us to focus on changing culture and creating fertile soil that will speak to organizational health, that will allow us to build a DEI infrastructure that will be impactful, interdisciplinary, and sustainable in meaningful ways moving forward. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of background about the infrastructure that is being built. And so that involves other components of my work is Title VI, and also building that as well in terms of integrating it in all aspects of the requirements, because Title VI is part of the Civil Rights Acts, so we have laws that we need to abide by. And so how we realize in real time in terms of engaging and working with disadvantaged grant, disadvantaged business enterprise program, and increasing those numbers and integrating that and normalizing that. Also, I'm jumped into the deep end with the Redmond 2050, which is planning, and I've been tasked with creating a internal communication plan, and that is about realizing that culture is built around communication and the power of words, and introducing using words smartly and introducing new vocabulary into the lexicon. For example, intercultural understanding, meaning that that is what we're aiming for. And so we're moving from using the term multicultural to intercultural because that's what we want. Also, we are reactivating the Welcome Redmond team. Welcoming Redmond team has the welcoming in it because we are a welcoming city that is a welcoming part of the Welcoming America Association, and that really focuses on creating community from the immigrant perspective and informing them in terms of what democracy in the making is, and understanding the systems that are in place that can do harm, but also the good ones as well, to inform them and create a welcoming environment. And then another aspect of my work is community engagement. And so that is a very forward-facing aspect of my work where my feet hit the streets and I'm out engaging and talking with community members in meaningful ways so that we can better serve them. If you don't, we don't know what we don't know. And so that's what I've been doing. And do you have any questions?
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harrison. Happy New Year. It's great to see you again. I want to check back in on that additional FTE, limited duration FTE that we funded for 2024. Obviously, since it's limited duration, that's not something that we can guarantee for next year. So I just want to make sure we're maximizing it for this year. I didn't see any mention in your update for this month. So can you give us a sense on where we're at in adding that additional resource for your program?
Well, since I developed the agenda for the update for today, we have hired someone to work with me, a talented young lady that is just onboarding this week. And so I'm really looking at the opportunities, how she can support me in this work. So I'm excited to have her on board.
Oh, that's wonderful. Could you say a bit more about the scope of what you consider that work to be this year?
I can't. I mean, in the sense of how, as I'm building this infrastructure, I'm at this point where assessing how she can help me in that work. And so I'm still teasing that out in meaningful ways. But she has a great attitude, a great set of skills, and is inspired to learn and engage and help me in this work.
Okay, great. Looking forward to following along and hearing more. Thank you.
Definitely.
Councilmember Fields.
Thank you. So it's always a risk for me when a question occurs to me like on the spot, and then I go ahead and ask it.
Okay.
So I might acknowledge that risk. But I'm reading one of the bullet points here, Redmond 2050. And I like the work that you've laid out, but I'm struck by two things. The planning team during the next 3 months. I loved seeing you here every month, but I'm not clear on why we ask you to come here every month. It seems most of the oversight that we do and the reviews are in every other area, it's every 3 months. And I'm acutely interested in what former Black and African American Redmond residents would have to offer to us to improve our city. So I'm very much interested in that. But I think this is just an example that your work takes time. And for us to see you and I think this is more of a question for my colleagues than you. And I'm not going to put you on the spot and asking, but I would then ask my colleagues, are we, this seems unusual. Would we be better off if this was every 3 months, both in efficiency of staff time and our ability to compare the progress that we're making, as opposed to bringing staff in here every month?
Council President Kritzer.
I'd weigh in on that. I think the original idea when we made this request was we hadn't actually had as many updates, and we were in transition before Ms. Harrison came on, and we wanted to make sure that we could have a spotlight on this topic and be able to see how the work was progressing, in particular on the ready work and on some of our planning work, and to be able to make sure that we had a regular contact. I know that I've recently been discussing with Ms. Harrison about just overall being able to build a great advisory relationship directly with council members around how we do our work and just building a closer relationship there. So it may be that we revisit it to do it, every other month, I would say, if we wanted to do that as updates. I do think that Council Vice President Forsyth and I met with Anita earlier today, and we were discussing about how the actual plan work of the Ready AR plan is progressing, and it sounds like by the end of the first quarter, we're going to have an actual plan to be looking at, and then we'll be having a plan to hold ourselves accountable to and to be able to talk about how that implementation is going. And so I do think that will give us some fodder in terms of these updates to be able to actually hear from Ms. Harrison about how that's going and everything. So anyway, just that to say, I would say it probably makes sense to maybe, if we wanted to go every other meeting, to not have to do every month. That would be fine. But I still remain interested in being able to have the updates so we can hear about what's going on, the community can hear, and we can ask questions, but we also don't have to use a ton of time every month if we don't need it. Not sure what others think.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
Thank you. I'm always for giving the gift of time. So I know you have a lot of work to do, and this is a very heavy lift in front of you. I do think that, we initially had these so that because we were all very excited to get into this work and to do this work with you. And as much as we love seeing you, I would rather give you more time to dive in. And as Council President Kritzer said, we will be seeing the culmination of the last year's worth of work with you and Anita very soon. So I am all for every other month, every 3 months, however you see it best fitting in for your schedule and for the work to bring forward.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thanks. I think this time of year is a natural time to bring up questions like this about how we want to go forward this year. I also think in the past there wasn't enough daylight on this program. This is prior to Jan's arrival, and so it was a council request to have some more daylight. Additionally, we leaned on, at that time, I remember us leaning on the similar platform that we use for like Jenny Liebeck's monthly ESAP updates, so it became something here, but yeah, it sounds like council leadership knows more about what's ahead, and maybe we have a new chair of this committee, and maybe some conversation can be had about what's right now. But I've appreciated the chance for sure to get to know Jan in this way.
Are there any Councilmember Fields?
I was going to lead with what Councilmember Stewart just said, that I recognize when something is new, that we want to make sure that we get it, the trajectory and correct. And I was going to actually use Councilmember Stewart's words to say, this is a great time to reevaluate, and I forgot to say that, so appreciate that. And I do think it's the beginning of the year. I don't think we need an answer tonight, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Thank you. Council President Kritzer.
And might I suggest one thing we'll talk about at council talk time, but one idea that I have for our council retreat would be for us to discuss how we best use our committee times overall and some of the areas we want to focus on in committees. So I think this could be a great topic, is to say, how do we really make sure we provide the deep dive and focus on this really important area of work, while also hopefully beforehand we could get some input from our wonderful DEI advisor on that. I did have one other comment, and you can come back to me.
Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you so much. And all of these logistics aside, I really want to thank you for preparing this, and especially as our first look at, as new council members, our first look at this report. I'm really excited to work with you and seeing all of the opportunities that we have for DEI work across the city.
Thank you.
Council President Kritzer.
Yeah, just one other comment, just thinking about the year ahead, is it being a budget year, and to Councilmember Stewart's point about how last budget, we said we made some changes to make sure that we gave the resources and authority to your role to be able to do this really important work. I'm excited to hear about hiring the new person, and I would just put it out there that, I'm very interested in the year ahead for us to look at what is needed to continue to do this work well, and would just encourage those conversations as part of this committee as well as the budget, so that we budget adequately for the upcoming 2 years as well.
Council, are there any other questions or comments that you'd like to make? Vice President Forsyth.
Just congratulations on the new staff. We look forward to meeting them.
Oh, thank you.
Ms. Harrison, thank you so much for the work that you've done. I just want to echo the things that my colleagues have already said. I'm looking forward to working together as we move forward. But before we do that, I just wanted to especially thank you for the work that you've done with the Planning Commission as I served on the Planning Commission for the last year, and truly deeply appreciated the new language that we saw inside of that we're going to see here on the council this year. So thank you for all of that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, moving on to our fourth item on the agenda is the appointment of board members to the Cascade Water Alliance. And we have City CO Melissa Files joining us today.
Thank you. According to our joint municipal utility services agreement with Cascade Water Alliance, the council needs to appoint board members by resolution. So the resolution was in your packet. What the mayor is recommending that she continue as the primary board member for Cascade Water Alliance and appoint Councilmember Nueva Camina as the alternate. If council wants to go forward, I propose that this would be on the February 6th agenda on consent. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilmember Fields.
So I don't know that I have I do have a couple of questions. And mostly it's from faulty memory. If I recall, the prior mayor, Mayor Marchioni, appointed then council president Bernie to this board in the final 2 years of his administration. Do you remember that?
So let me think back. Former Mayor Marchioni served on Cascade Water Alliance.
Correct.
I believe you're right, until the last couple of years of his
Right,
term.
and then he appointed, and he also, I think it was the same, about the same time when the COO position was created, and it was partly because to ensure time for the mayor to do certain things. So that's the question part. This, my thought, and I'm now talking to my colleagues on council, is I would like to see Councilmember Anderson stay on the board as the primary, and that the mayor resign from the board and use the time that's then made available for her new role on Sound Transit, the fact that we're in a budget year, and I'm certainly in favor of both positions being on council, and I think that it's something that we should talk about and consider. I don't know that there's an advantage, and maybe this is a question for you, COO Files, is there something that would, assuming that council agreed with me, is there something technical or even something compelling that that we wouldn't want to do that?
Couple thoughts. So just continuity of a board member, to have the mayor as the primary board member. She has been the primary board member for quite a while. So continuity with Cascade Water Alliance. So I think that would be the primary thought. I could probably think of other ones if you gave me time, but
No, and that's fine. And I think the continuity also in continuing a Councilmember Anderson on the board is sort of mitigates that. So I get what you're saying. Continuity is important. Being able to recognize the history and all of those other things. And unfortunately, Councilmember Anderson is not here. Oh, she is?
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. My apologies. I didn't know you were here. I was looking at the empty chair.
No worries.
So
okay.
I said my piece. So, thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Sure. Well, I think it's an interesting question. And of course, with no disrespect to the chair of this meeting, who is up for appointment to the seat, I would say it's not a decision I necessarily know if I have enough information to weigh fully, given the universe of board commitments and appointments that it's been going on in the last couple of last few weeks. So this is one to weigh one board more so than any of the others. I wouldn't feel like I am fully prepared with enough information. Just a thought.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
Thank you. And I would have agreed with that statement had I not inadvertently run into someone outside of council setting from another city's finance department at an event who we ended up talking. They ended up asking about Cascade Water, and I learned from that conversation that Councilmember Anderson was the chair of the Finance Committee, and they gave her a glowing review of that work for that Finance Committee. And I myself didn't know that she did that work, so I thought that was really interesting, and it was really great to hear that, from an outside perspective, how well one of our council members was doing chairing that committee. That being said, I'm interested to know if Councilmember Anderson is interested in returning to that board, is interested in giving up that seat. I do know Councilmember Nueva Camino would do an excellent job as well. So this is really, I think, the open conversation that we all need to be having in this moment.
Sorry, through the chair, is this for me? A question to respond to Ms. Forsyth?
Councilmember Anderson, you could bring in another comment or question.
Sure. I would be delighted to continue service on the Cascade Water Alliance board, and I would also be delighted to support another member or two new members to the board. I will remind the council that the responsibility of continuity is going to be on the boards of Cascade. And if there's a possibility to ask if they have recommendations one way or another, it is council's decision. And the mayor's recommendation may not match up with what the council's decision is. So I'm sort of in the middle on this. I apologize for making anything awkward. I was not aware that this would come up. So, and I appreciate the opportunity. I think serving on the board has been a wonderful experience. It's definitely a different organization than the current council. And I am happy to support one way or another in terms of where the council lands on this. Great organization. Thank you for the positive comments and feedback as well. I appreciate it.
Council President Kretzer.
Yeah, I'm taking in the different suggestions, and I guess one of my questions that I would want some follow-up on would be a little bit more about the work in the time ahead that Cascade Water will be embarking on. And I think as Councilmember Anderson just said, if there's any perspective in terms of continuity versus new perspectives, that any benefits or opportunities for having those new perspectives on there. So my suggestion might be, it depends, I guess the other question would be how time sensitive this is. And if maybe we continue the same representation until we make the decision, if we wanted to be able to take this, each of us kind of think about this a bit more and revisit it at another committee meeting.
Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you. I love that question, Ms. Kritzer. Thank you. To answer your question, the board meets the last Wednesday of the month. And I don't offhand know when the appointment needs to be done, but there would be at least 2 council meetings between that and the next meeting.
I think if you want to think about it, you have time to do that. The mayor and Councilmember Anderson will continue until council makes a different decision. Cascade Water Alliance would like, because under the Municipal Services Agreement, I do need council to appoint somebody by resolution, but I think you could think about it. Just not too long, I would say.
Councilmember Fields?
Yeah, I think that we can come to a decision in the time frame that was just described. I just wanted to offer that based on my own thoughts, and based on what I heard the council say and council members say, I'm not likely to put this as proposed on consent. I will take it, if it ends up on consent, I will pull it, and I will make a motion to appoint Councilmember Anderson as the primary, Councilmember Nueva Camina as the alternate, and I think that meets the issue that I've heard, which is we have the continuity, we have an experienced member, and we also have a new appointee with new ideas, and I share Councilmember Forsyth's comments that I have complete confidence in my fellow council member that would be the best approach for the city of Redmond to take. So, and I stand by what I said before. The mayor, there's a lot of work to be done in the city. We have a 2050 plan, we have a budget. She's now on the board of Sound Transit. And there's a lot of things that come to our attention on a regular basis that I think our mayor should be focused on. And having something like Cascade Water, which is very important, in the capable hands of 2 council members delights me. So that's where I stand.
Councilmember Anderson?
Just one final comment, Ms. Files, you mentioned that we would both continue to serve. And I had a clarifying question on if that is per our resolution or for the board term of Cascade. I'm not aware of my board term. I was informed that I was removed earlier this year by the mayor, which probably means an alternate at minimum could be reappointed if we needed some sort of interim solution.
Yeah, it was my understanding that until we have a new resolution that board members would continue, but I can clarify that with Cascade.
I will plan to attend the meeting tomorrow just in case, so I can at least say thank you and goodbye.
Great.
Councilmember Fields?
Sorry, that was new information. So I didn't know that the mayor had already taken action on this, which is odd given the fact that we are discussing a council responsibility. I just wanted to make that comment. I'm not sure how and why the mayor would take action.
Council President Kritzer?
Just hearing this, my guess would be that she sent in an email informing Councilmember Anderson that there would be this change. But clearly, we've clarified in this process that we will make this decision. So if we haven't made the decision, as far as COO Files said, it seems like it stands. So maybe it was more misinterpretation of that.
Okay, so it's informational. Thank you. Appreciate that.
As this was requesting going to the consent agenda for February 6th, I'm looking like that it is going to be being added to new business. Councilmember Stewart?
Oh, I'm just always in favor of resolution rather than leaving a committee meeting with something hanging. We do not have a council meeting next week because it is a fifth Tuesday, and that's why, even though it's not the last Wednesday of the month tomorrow, it sounds like Cascade's meeting is occurring tomorrow. So let these words have held a little extra space while we're all thinking about the next step, that's all.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
So what I heard were some lingering questions. So I'm interested if there's potentially space for this on the FAC meeting on is the FAC the first meeting? Whatever the first.
It would be Planning and Public
Public Works, yes, that's right. If there might be space for this on the committee meeting so that we could get some of those lingering questions that were asked answered, and then it could potentially be on new business, or if everyone is more amenable to it being on FAC, which would be the following week, and then consent on the third week.
Council President Kritzer.
I would support that, and potentially we could request that the mayor attend that meeting so that if we have any questions for her of her experience on Cascade Water, we could hear that. If we're going to think about who we're appointing here, she could be able to share with us about why it is that she recommends herself to be the main member, that she can speak for herself at that time.
Councilmember Stewart.
I can very much support that. I think that's great. And maybe what I was missing here was we have a memo, we have an ordinance, but we don't have much else. So that would be helpful probably. I will just share with my fellow colleagues that we do have a very full agenda, of course, for 2PW because we always do. So just fair warning that it's already full. So this would be an addition, but if you're okay with an additional 10 minutes, that's probably where we'd be.
Okay, so it looks like we are going to be moving this to February 13th for February 6th. Councilmember Salahuddin.
Yeah, so sorry for the late question. Is there a process of separating the two appointments, one for the alternate and one for the primary in the resolution, so that potentially, if there is consensus on a new council member joining, Councilmember Nueva Camina, she would be able to go to the meeting tomorrow? Just a thought. I don't know if that's even a possibility.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
We would still need to vote on that action, so that won't actually work. So technically, Ms. Anderson should be attending the next meeting anyway, because we would not have voted on the resolution in time for that appointment to take effect.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Councilmember Fields.
I think, and maybe Councilmember Anderson can help with this, but I've been told that in the past I could attend a Cascade, not as an appointee, but you can attend the meeting. Is that correct, Councilmember Anderson?
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes, through the chair. That was what I was going to ask. That was just going to suggest everybody should come to the Cascade Water Alliance board meeting and then see how it goes. And it's a wonderful group. You're all welcome. The alternate role is currently my role, and I've been serving in that position for 4 years. With 2 years as finance committee chair. So the suggestion that I would have is anybody can attend. The alternate is really just present there only in case of the primary member not being present to be able to vote, if that helps. So everybody can pretend to be an alternate for a day and show up and announce yourself at the beginning of the meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. Council President Kritzer.
I could tell there was a little question after we all made the decision of the next step on this, of whether we need to do something formal to approve this. My belief is that we could just ask the chair of the next committee to put that on the agenda and have the trust that it will show up there. So I think we could just have that confirmation.
Can we do thumbs up with being a long agenda on February 6th?
There's also the follow-up committee of the whole the week after, if that's easier for everyone.
I have no idea what that looks like, but yes, that's an option.
Here's what I would propose is if the agenda looks really packed, then email council leadership and we could communicate to the FAC chair to put it onto the next week.
Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up all around.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to our last item for our evening, item number 5 is the monthly environmental sustainability action plan update, and that we are joined by Ms. Jenny Liebeck. Thank you.
Good evening. So this was discussed a little bit earlier, but just as a reminder, I provide these monthly updates on the Environmental Sustainability Action Plan. I've actually been doing that for about 2 years now. So these were started at the request of council, just as a way to keep a steady flow of communication about our sustainability efforts, both for council and the public. So again, to the earlier discussion, I welcome feedback on both that cadence and the content that's delivered. So please send that feedback, and I will also be tuning in or listening about the results of what you all talked about during your retreat. But today I did just want to highlight 2 updates from Attachment A, which is included with the meeting materials today. First is a core element of our sustainability programming here at the city is our Energy Smart East Side. This is actually a regional collaboration with the cities of Redmond, Bellevue, Kirkland, Issaquah, and Mercer Island. But Energy Smart East Side is a program that basically works to connect our residents with the incentives, information, and resources that they need to go electric. The current focus of that program is around heat pumps. And so today I did just want to highlight that we are hosting a webinar on January 31st, where we'll be going through the ins and outs of the heat pump program, the local utility and federal incentives that are available, and then answer any questions that our community members may have. So registration is available on our website at energysmarteastside.org. And so please do share that with your constituents. And we are also launching a second cohort of our Boost program. So that is our low-income program where we provide full-cost coverage heat pump installations for those earning between 50% and 80% of the area median income. We have learned a lot through that first cohort, and really excited to be applying that to the second cohort of community members. And then 2, I did just want to flag that I will be coming back actually with our program manager later this, I believe it's at the end of this quarter, to provide a little bit more detailed overview of this program, because it is electrifying residents' homes is a really important initiative for all communities' climate efforts. And I think one of the really exciting things that we've done as the East Side cities is we've come together, pooled our resources to hire a shared staff person. And so that staff person is housed at Bellevue, but obviously is a critical member of Redmond's team as well. So she'll be coming, her name is Sarah, she will be coming to one of our later committee meetings to provide an overview of the program, and again, where we're looking to take that in the for 2024 and 2025. And then finally, I did just want to highlight that we have Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting, which will be hosted virtually this Thursday from 5:30 to 7. And so that meeting will be focusing on the second version of the climate element, which Council, you did a deep dive on with Glenn at your last study session. And so your support in just sharing information about that, both the climate element being open for public comment as well as the advisory committee meeting is appreciated. So any questions on those just 2 topics, as well as any of the content that was included in the attachment? I am available for questions.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much, Ms. Liebeck. This is a really great update. I just want to put a question out for the future. It would be really helpful if we could see in one of these future reports a brief update on how the construction and demolition program is going. So no, not a question for today, but would be interested in that in the near future. Thank you.
Council President Kritzer.
One question that came to me from a community member when I was looking at our dashboard, which has now some of the updated data, is that some of the metrics still only have through 2020 and some have through 2022. Would you be able to speak to that of kind of why we have that split in the data?
Yes, and there should be updated data as of last week, so I'm not sure when they talked with you. There was a lag just because with our greenhouse gas emissions inventory that I presented on in end of November, I believe, we just had a gap in when that data made it into our Power BI metrics. There's this chain of getting information in. So those questions have all been remedied on our side, and that's all updated on the website. So if they look now, it should all be up to date. But I will be sure to take a look and make sure that there are no gaps. So
thank you. Yeah. And one question on the fleet work that you mentioned in the memo as well.
Yeah.
Can you just share a little bit more with us about that collaborative fleet study work and how it feeds into our city's fleet study?
Yeah, so I was the East Side cities, the sustainability managers, we do a lot of great work together, and we're always looking for commonalities or ways that we can help share information, not just amongst ourselves, but some other kind of folks who are working on other sustainability efforts. So one of the areas of need we identified was to bring our fleet managers together to have a conversation, because a lot of our cities are going through a similar process. So Redmond, our Public Works Department is leading a fleet study where they're evaluating, how the size of our fleet, the usage in our fleet, and how we can then strategically electrify our fleet. A lot of other cities in our area are doing the same on the east side. And so it was just a really great conversation, honestly, just to bring folks together and share what they're doing, what they're thinking about, how they've managed certain issues. And so basically the intent with that conversation was just to see, is there there for us to continue to coordinate and collaborate? We definitely heard a resounding yes. The fleet managers all were like, this was a really great conversation. I think they just appreciated having their peers together to be able to just talk through the challenges, and Redmond is getting an EV fire engine. They were all very excited to just learn and how each jurisdiction is approaching things differently. So they were identifying commonalities and things that they were going to kind of dive deeper into in future meetings. And so as the sustainability managers, we're just there to kind of help ensure those conversations happen and continue to seed that. So it was a really great kind of test for all of us, and we all learned a lot too, because it was fun just to sit back and hear them share and learn from them as well. So it was a great conversation.
Councilmember Fields.
I can't find it again, but the newsletter has 2,000 subscribers. How did we get to 2,000? How do we get to 10,000?
I think we get to 10,000 by being parks or beyond. I believe there are like 20. Yeah, they have a lot of subscribers. I don't know how we got to 10,000. I mean, we've promoted it at events, within other newsletters, things like that. Also, when we developed the ESAP, that was also where that mailing list started to get developed. In terms of continuing to grow it, I welcome feedback and ideas on how to do that for sure. But yeah, got to take some tips from Parks for sure.
Sure, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Ms. Leichbeck, I've got just two quick questions. One is almost a follow-up to Councilmember Fields on how are we getting the information out? We've got the upcoming webinar on heat pumps on the 31st. How are we spreading the word on that webinar?
I mean, primarily social media and our e-newsletter. Those are kind of the two, I'd say, main avenues. Yeah, again, always open for feedback. I think this is always something we're trying to think about is, who are the best messengers for content? And how do we get content to people in a way that they'll receive it and, interact with it? So, but social media and our e-newsletter are definitely the primary channels that we leverage. Yeah.
And it's similar in regards to Boost. As we know, Redmond, we're 50% renters, ballpark numbers, and a lot of those do fall within the affordable housing range, which I know is also a very loose term. But if we're looking at between 50 and 80% AMI, how are we getting the information out to those residents? And how many houses, because that's going to be houses, not apartments, how many participants are we looking at in Boost?
So so I may punt a little bit of this to the deeper dive conversation, because this is like honestly a whole hour-long conversation. But I would say the high-level piece is we actually have contracted with HopeLink to do that outreach, right? Because they're a trusted messenger. They already have a client base, so a really great place for us to start. Heat pumps are expensive, so honestly, it's not like we can do a ton of these. Our first cohort was 25 community members across the east side, 6 in Redmond. So it's not like we have a lot of HopeLink customers, for instance, to be working through. The affordable housing and the multifamily space is definitely a kind of a nut that we're looking to crack, and have some grant applications that we're looking to apply for to try and kind of get into that market. It's a really, really tricky market too. So again, welcome feedback if you have thoughts, ideas on how we can do that best. But I'll be sure to flag that too for when we do that Boost or Energy Smart East Side kind of deep dive, that we can really touch on some of that stuff and make sure that's highlighted in the content.
Great, thank you. I know when we're talking about affordability in any regards on the east side, we never really know what is going to be the one thing or two things that's really going to crack that nut, as you would put it. So even if it's 6 residents, 6 homes here in Redmond that we're working on. So thank you for continuing it.
Yeah.
Well, we have reached the end of today's agenda, and is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, we are adjourned.
And you're clear.